going to teach some tricks and some tips for Excel, and these are aimed at geoscientists and reservoir engineers, petroleum engineers, other disciplines. Well, you might find something of interest here. Some of these tricks you may know, some you may not. Please share them with your friends and family and colleagues. Why not? So today we're going to look at reservoir pressures. We're going to look at the data and the graphs that come from it. We're going to find out, well, what is an RFT? We're also going to be talking about Hutton. Well, what is Hutton? What is an RFT? It is a tool that you lower down the hole and it measures the pressure in the formation. Here's the AAPG wiki, and there's the link at the top. We'll put that in the description below. So go and learn exactly what an RFT tool is, how it works, and the sort of data that you get from it. We're also going to be talking about Hutton. Well, what is Hutton? Hutton is an oil field in the northern North Sea. Here's a part of the montage that we have in our TROVE database. Within this, you can see the production profiles. You can see that's the platform there, the TLP, the Hutton TLP. It was the first tension leg platform in the world. Here's a type log, lots of information, lots of links to various publications that you can get from the Lyle memoirs, and there's hyperlinks in there as well. Here's an example paper, some maps. I'll just draw your attention to this. Now, Hutton was chosen, had such a great data set. The British Geological Survey decided to make this available online as a learning tool. So it's called Oilfield in a Box. You can find it online. There's the hyperlink there. Being used by lots of universities as a learning tool. We're going to look at RFT data and we'll kind of draw some graphs and things. Can I get a copy of this spreadsheet and tutorial? Well, the tutorial is here. It's on YouTube. It's on our channel. Copy of the spreadsheet. You'll find that online on our website and we'll give you the link shortly. So why are we making this video? Well, we made it for educational purposes. We're using Excel 365 for Mac. There's the detail. Now, you'll find a lot of tutorials out there that are actually made for the PC. I find very few that are made for Mac, so that's why we're doing this one in the Apple version. The first thing I like to do, there we go, get rid of grid lines. Now, if you go into View, you'll see that there is a number of options in here. Once you get rid of the grid lines, that becomes a nicer page, doesn't it? So get rid of the grid lines. That always makes it look a little bit nicer. We're going to create and format an Excel table. We've shown you how to create navigation buttons for ease of you going around the spreadsheet. We're going to create a pressure versus depth chart. You can see here's the data set. Sometimes it's quite useful to actually freeze the panes. So in here, freeze the panes. So now you keep the header and you go down. That's trick number one. That's just for free. So here is the data. It's the wells are all drilled on the Hutton field. It's H01 all the way down. You can see all the way down this list. The last one I think is H40. As well as the well, you can see the measured depth. This is rotary Kelly bushing is the reference. So feet RKB. Or true vertical depth, and this is in feet sub-sea. This is what we'll be using all the time. So we've corrected any deviation surveys. We've done a video on depth, worth watching if you don't really understand what the difference is between these two things. You'll find that on our channel. Well worth watching. Formation pressure, it's measured in pounds per square inch. PSI is great. Here's a flag here, whether the wells were actually before production started on the field or after the production has started. This is the geological unit, and we're probably not going to go into that in this particular video. So when we go in, this is all the development wells on the Hutton field from well H1 to H40. One of the most valuable tips I'm going to go through today is if you're not familiar with this button here, Format as Table, it makes a huge difference. Click on it and choose a color scheme that you like, anything you like. I kind of like this one here. It then comes and asks you, have we captured all your data? And so you can see there's this line around it here that's flashing, and it goes all the way down to H40. Yes, it's the bottom of our table. Does our table have headers? Yes, it does. These are the headers here. So we'll just click OK. And all of a sudden, it changes appearance. And we've got all these things in alternating colors now. And this tells me it's a table. Now what you can do is if you only wanted to, say, select one or two wells, or maybe this well, you apply the filter, and the only data you've got now is the HO1, HO2, and HO5, nothing else. That can be quite useful. You can clear the filter here. So all wells are back. we use hyperlinks to get started. So this will take us back to the intro, this will take us to the get started page. You have them so you can use them as buttons like this, but I actually prefer to just have them as words in a cell. So if we wanted to kind of show you how to do that, so we put in here pressure charts, okay, highlight the cell and basically make it into a hyperlink. There we are, hyperlink, and we want it to go to charts. Okay, now it always gives you this default, which I never like, so we always change it to basically have a nice royal blue, a nice bluish background. We center it, we put it in the middle, and we put a boundary around it. And what that gets you is, now you click on that, you go to pressures, you click on that, whoops, there we go, and we've got the same thing. So you can see there's a hyperlink on here, and we click on the intro. So we always tend to put our hyperlinks on the top left so that we can always find our way around, but occasionally we'll put another one at the top here. Here is our data, and we're going to go over here and we're going to insert a graph. Now the graph we're going to do is an XY scatter plot, and we're going to choose this fella here. I don't really care for this very much. You just get a white screen, and then you have to click on it and you have to select data. But not only that, you actually have to make sure that you select the series. If you don't, nothing will happen. So we want the X values. Now we want the X values to be our formation pressures. We're going to click on that, and what you'll see is these lines moving around, and it's selected the entire column from top to bottom, which is absolutely brilliant and really saves an awful lot of time. So then we can say yes to that, and then we go in here and we're going to pick our Y values. Now, we don't want to worry about measured depth, but we do want to actually have our TVD sub C. That's the depth that we've chosen. So we've chosen those two columns. We'll just say okay. Now it's showing reservoir pressure versus depth. But there's another trick you need to know. Again, it's not the most obvious one, but if you go into the format axis and you click on values in reverse order, then you can see we've got the depth increasing as you go down. So it's like a view of the wellbore, as it were. So that's really, really useful. Now, I could do a few bits and pieces, but here's one that we worked on a little bit earlier. Here's all the data that's actually in the spreadsheet. And what we're seeing is basically pressure increasing with depth from essentially the top of the reservoir here all the way down towards the base of the reservoir. There may be some oil leg data points in here as well as some water leg data points, but you can see it looks like a fairly straightish line. Another thing we can do at this stage is to add data labels. It's underneath here, add data labels, format data labels, and when you see that come up, it says, well, what do you want? We want value from cells, and it asks you what cells do we want, and we say, well, actually we want to know what the well is. So again, you can see it's highlighting this, and we hit return, okay, and lo and behold, we've got a bit of a mess because we need to turn off the Y values. Let's just do that and then turn off the Y values, and then we can see that we've got a whole bunch of wells in here. Here's one I prepared earlier. This is using the same data set. Basically no data labels on here. I actually had the data labels over here. You can see that they highlight whatever the well is, all the way from H10 down here all the way up to H03. And that's the pre-production. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go into data and clear. Now that clears everything. I may have selected different parameters. I've got one here which is basically this pre or post-production, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the pre-production, apply the filter. There's the graph, it's filled in. You can see it's added some more fields. We're seeing that the pressure is increasing with depth. There might be a water gradient at the bottom towards here. There's something going on. There's a few spurious points, but you're seeing all the data. Now let's just say we only want to put, we want to look at that HO1. When I go to this pressure, I've got it so that these are set. the parameters are set so that it always falls in the right place. Basically setting the start as 5,000, the top is 6,600, and we're going from 9,000 feet subsea down to 10,000 feet subsea. So to show how we actually put the label on there, so what we can do is select this axis here, axis titles, we want the primary horizontal, highlight this here, and we put in reservoir pressure, and that's in PSI. Now, whether it's absolute or PSIG or PSIA, well, we'll leave that for now. Just call it PSI. That's PSI gauge or PSI absolute. That's a detail we're not going to worry about at this time. And it helps if I can spell, take out the additionally, and you can see we could actually label these up. Probably worth doing. And then sometimes I like to push this, select this box, holding the shift key, just move it along to the left-hand edge. What happens on an oil field? Well, if I go in here and I, again, go into data and just clear everything, so hit that clear button. I've got everything now selected. If I come in here and I only select the pre-production, we've seen this before, apply the filter, have a look at the graph, and you can see here's all the data. From pretty much the top of the field, which is around about 9,200 feet subsea, down to 10,200 feet. So it's about 1,000 foot's worth of column. But it's actually more complicated than that. We'll save that for another day. So here's all the data. Now, if I go back to the data and actually get rid of this and just select all the data, I could have cleared the filter, or I can apply this new filter, which has essentially got everything. Doesn't really matter. I'll hit clear on this occasion. Here is all the data points. We were seeing that straight line. This was, we call that the virgin pressures, and you can see all the wells, HO3 down to H10. These are the ones we were looking at before. But once you start production, then you find that the pressure actually falls off. Here we've got it lowering of pressure with the production of oil from the reservoir. This is quite substantial. It's going down by sometimes thousands of PSI. In this case, it's going down to sort of 3,000 PSI for some of them. So this is just showing a subsection. If I wanted to show it all, then I would change it by changing in here, just going in and making that 3,000, and now I can see all the data. There's two graphs look alike. One of them's with labels, the other one's not. And sometimes having them side by side so you can actually see what the outliers are is very, very interesting. Now, I happen to know that some of the anomalous wells in here are some of the very, very late wells. So what I might do is might go in and just take out some of these later wells. There's a reason for it, and we won't go into that for now. This is the main field of Hutton though, and if we go to the graphs, mostly we start off with the pressures around about 6,200, 6,400 PSI, and very soon we find that we have pressures down at 5,400, 4,444, down at 3,600, so we're actually lowering the pressure by thousands of PSI. This is what will happen. You're actually taking out that volume, that mass of oil. The pressure is going to fall accordingly. And this is why you would actually go about introducing water injection to actually push the pressures back up to replace the voidage that's been created by the offtake of fluid. Initially that's all oil, but through time it's both oil and water, sometimes formation water, sometimes seawater, if that's what you're injecting. This is typically what you get in a field. Say we want to make up some data point. We want to put it in H41, yeah? We'll make this 8,000, and we'll have a look at that on the graph, and here is H41. We've added the data point. If you've got it in a formal Excel table, which the giveaway for that is if you kind of see it with some sort of color scheme like that, you can also note it's a table because you've got this thing at the bottom, and you can actually drag that down to actually now include some additional rows. So I could put in H42 here, and I could put in the same depth, 9,400. I'll make it 9,000. There we go. This is another spurious data point, but in it goes, and you can see there's H41, H42. And here, it's actually extending the range to show that data point. You can do all sorts of things. There might be a particular area of the field that you're interested in. This way you can very, very quickly understand what's happening with your pressures. You can look at individual wells. You could look at all wells within a fault block, all wells within a particular unit. So we could say have a look at the massive unit and apply the filter. And so we're seeing all the wells, but we're only seeing it for the unit being the massive. This is the stratigraphic unit. And for those who are interested, it's the Etive formation of the Brent group. We don't need to know that. If we look at the corresponding graph, there it is. So initially, you see, here's the virgin pressures, and through time, pressure depletes. These will be the later wells here. This was the last of 10 producers that were drilled on the field and put on production. Thereafter, they started injecting. So wells H11 through H19 turned out to be water injectors, and so they pushed the pressures back up. So you can see H23, H25, they're moving back towards the original pressure. H11 didn't have very much drawdown or depletion, and then that's because it was only put on stream very, very shortly after these other wells were drilled. It was the first well drilled post-production. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Please hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Hope to see you back on our channel before too long. Bye for now.